Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 2 and we are going to explain about vowels and consonant sound. It is an unfortunate feature of the English language that the way its words are spelled does not always match the way its words are pronounced in the simple and systematic way of other languages. For instance, in most accents of English, the letter A is not pronounced the same in the two words tall and tolly. And also the two words telly and ellie are spelled alike. They are not pronounced alike, they do not rhyme. There are in fact two sides to this mismatching of spellings and pronunciation. A single vowel letter of the alphabet can represent at least two vowel sounds, and a single vowel sound can be represented by at least two different spellings. This mismatching is found amongst consonants too. The letter T in red and ration represent very different consonant sounds. Double S occurs in both past and patient, but whereas patient and ration rhyme, their identical sh sound is spelled differently. Vowels. The vowel system of English is relatively large. Latin had 5 vowels. Hence, the 5 vowel letters in our Roman alphabet, a modern form of Latin, Spanish has also only 5. Italian has 7, but English has at least 20. Listen to the following English names and note that each has a different vowel sound. Steve, Jim, Jen, Pat, Mark, John, George, Brooke, Sue, Chuck, Bert, Jane, Joe, Dee, Joy, Ian, Claire, Noor. That's 18 different vowel sounds already. Then add to those the 2 vowel sounds in Howard and the vowels at the beginning of Fiona and Lois. And so the relatively large size of the vowel system of English can begin to appreciate it. All these different vowel sounds can be used to distinguish ordinary words too, of course, such as pit, pit, pat, pat, part, pot, port, put, pert, pout. And thus they have a contrastive function. By virtue of this contrastive function, we can be sure that all these vowel sounds are distinct items or units in the phonology of English, that is, in English pronunciation as a system. And because they are distinct, linguists need to have a separate symbols for each of them. The phonetic description of the vowel sounds, that is, the way they are pronounced, help us to classify them all into groups. There are 3 important groupings: the short vowels, the long vowels, and the weak vowels. The short vowels. The short vowel is a simple or non-complex vocalic segment occurring within the nucleus of a syllable. The 6 short vowels can be found in the following words: lick, leg, lack, lock, look, luck. They have 2 main features. One is that they are phonetically shorter than the other vowels, as we shall see when we introduce the long vowels. The others that they are phonologically never able to appear at the end of a word in English. They must always be followed by a consonant. So, by introducing the short vowel first, we shall also have to practice the use of some of the consonant symbols. Some of the letters of the alphabet function also as phonetic symbols, all with their common English values. Lick. That vowel is represented by a symbol that looks like a small capital. Lick is transcribed as lick. Notice that the CK at the end of the word represents a single sound. and so only a single phonetic symbol, K, is required. Leg. The vowels is represented by an IPA symbol that looks like the Greek letter epsilon, so leg is transcribed as leg. Some dictionaries use the ordinary Roman letter because it has a more familiar look. Leg. It is traditionally represented by an IPA symbol that looks like the Old English ash letter A, as if a letter A was joined to A. You draw it by starting with a reserved C, then loop back through the middle of it, and finish with an E. Leg is transcribed either as lake or lake. The first one is traditional and is also handy to represent American accent. The second one represents most modern British accent, especially of the younger generation. By having both symbols available, you can begin to see how we can exploit them for transcribing different accents. Lock. In British accent, this vowel is represented by an IPA symbol that looks like a handwritten A upside down. To draw it, start with the hook at the top left, then drop down vertically and return with a curve to the right, up and round to the original hook. The word lock is transcribed as lock. Look. The IPA symbol that represents this sound, as it typically occurs in most accents of England and Wales, looks like the Greek letter omega, but upside down. You can draw this by starting with a hook at the top left and then descend and rise with a U shape, finishing with a hook at the top right. The word look is transcribed as look. Luck. The IPA symbol for these vowels looks like an upside down V. The word luck is transcribed as luck. The long vowels. The long vowels are literally longer than the short vowels. You might be able to hear the difference in the length of the vowels in the two words green and green. If I'm asked to say the vowel that occurs in green, I'm likely to say it has E, and if asked to say the vowel in green, I am likely to say it as E. Now, if you can compare the two together, E and E. If you consult phonetician books on the description of English pronunciation, you will find details of this difference in length. The long vowels are roughly twice the length of the short vowels. This is such a significant phonetic difference that it is the basis of one important grouping of vowels in English. Long vowels distinct from short vowels. There is also a phonological difference between the two. Whereas short vowels have to be followed by a consonant in English, this is not the case for the long vowels. They can occur at the end of the word unchecked, as it were. The vowel in green appears at the end of the word agree, without the necessity of a consonant following. A consonant may follow, of course, as in agreed, but it is not required as in the case of short vowels. Long vowels are themselves divided into two groups according to how steady the tongue is while they are being pronounced. If the tongue is relatively steady, they are called monophthongs or pure vowels. If there is a degree of movement by the tongue, they are called diphthongs. In my pronunciation of the E vowel, the tongue remains relatively stable, but when I pronounce the vowel E or I or A, the tongue rises to a higher position in the mouth and thus it qualifies as a diphthong. Say slowly the movement the tongue can be heard more easily. A. The length of the monophthongal long vowels is symbolized in the IPA by 2 points, rather like a colon after the vowel symbol. For instance, the vowel in green is E. The length of the diphthongal long vowels is symbolized by a double vowel symbol in which the starting and the ending points of the tongue is. Movements are represented, for instance, the vowel in I is transcribed as I, where the A represents the position of the tongue before it begins to move, and the E its position when it finishes. Monophthongs or pure vowels. The example of monophthongs are E in the word green, A in the word hard, O in the word fork, E in the word heard, and U in the word put. Diphthongs. The diphthongs are long vowels in which there is a noticeable movement of the tongue. In English, the movement of the tongue has three possible directions: either higher towards the front of the roof of the mouth, that is in the general direction towards the E or E vowel, or higher towards the back, that is in the general direction towards the U or U vowel, or towards a central area, that is in the general direction of the or vowel. These three directions are called front closing, back closing, and centering respectively. There are three front closing diphthongs in Southern English Standard pronunciation. They occur in the following words and name lake, like, and Lloyd. Lake. In the first one, lake, the tongue does not move a great deal, but you can nevertheless feel the movement as you imitate the vowel sound by itself. Its symbol is a double one, indicating the position of the tongue and the beginning and at the end of the movement, A. The E indicates a tongue position a little closer than the English and more like the vowel in the German word T, French T, etc. And the second part, E, indicates the position of tongue and at the end of the diphthongal movement. Say the vowel slowly to give yourself time to feel the movement of the tongue. A. Thus, lake is transcribed lake. Like. The symbol has already been mentioned before, I, which indicates a beginning position of the tongue like the A and an ending like E. Say the word E, I, A in slow motion again. A. Thus, like is transcribed like. The homophones E, I, A are transcribed simply as I. Lloyd. In this case, not only does the tongue move, but the lips change shape too. The tongue moves from the position for the O vowel to the position for the E. Thus, in the symbol is OI and Lloyd transcribed as Lloyd. There are just two back closing diphthongs. They occur in the words loud and loud. Loud has a number of variations, but the main one in Southern English Standard pronunciation has the tongue beginning in a central position and finishing like U or U. The IPA symbol for the initial positions of the tongue is like an upturned, inverted E. This symbol is called schwa. Loud is thus transcribed as loud. Loud has a tongue movement which begins close to the beginning of I, but moves in the direction of U or U. Thus, its symbol is ow, and loud is transcribed as loud. In some description, the letter shape is used instead, but in practical terms, this makes very little difference in English. Finally, the three centering diphthongs which appear in the words leer, lair, and moor. Leer. In the first case, the tongue begins near the E or E positions and moves to the central area. The symbol is a combination of E and schwa, ie. Thus, vowel leer is transcribed as lia. Lair has the tongue in the position for the vowel e before it moves to the central area. The symbol is a combination of e and schwa, ie. Thus, lair is transcribed lia. Lair. Moor has the tongue in the position for u before it moves to the central area. The symbol is a combination of u and e and u. Thus, moor is transcribed as moor. In addition, diphthongs vowels in the IPA are a in the word place, o in the word home, ow in the word mouse, ear in the word clear, a in the word care, oi in the word boy, I in the word fine, and o in the word tour. Triphthongs. Triphthong is a glide from one vowel to another and then to a third, all produced rapidly and without interruption. Triphthongs of this kind always appear to end in schwa and can be thought of as diphthongs leading to schwa. Here is some examples. A plus E, example player. I plus E, example fire, liar. Oi plus E, example loyal, royal. O plus E, example lower, mower. And ow plus E, example hour, power.
The second material is consonants. In most standard accents of English, there are 24 consonants, and they are grouped into 5 types: plosive, nasal, fricatives, affricates, approximants. Plosive are usually introduced first because the kind of constriction in the mouth by which they are produced is total. There are 6 of them: po, po, t, da, k, g, po, and bo are produced with the constriction at the lips, or bilabial. In the case of po, the vocal folds or chords produce no voicing, and so po is consequently known as a voiceless plosive. T and da are produced with the constriction of the blade of the tongue against the ridge behind the upper teeth or alveolar. T is voiceless. K and k are produced with the constriction of the back of the tongue against the back of the roof of the mouth. The soft palate or velar, k, is voiceless. Nasals have the same constriction as plosives, except that air is allowed to pass through the nose, but not through the mouth. There are 3 nasals in English. Is bilabial, is alveolar, and is velar. None of them are voiceless. The IPA symbol for the velar nasal is the letter N supplemented with the tail of Ga, as in the words bank, anger, and is also found as the spelling at the end of a word like bank. The letter Ga is not pronounced separately in such words in SESP. Fricatives have a looser constriction in the mouth, which allows friction to be produced at the point of contact. There are 9 fricatives, 4 pairs, and are produced with the constriction between the lower lip and the upper teeth, or labiodental. Is voiceless, and second pair of fricatives has the constriction between the tip or blade of the tongue and the upper teeth, dental. They are both spelled thin. The represents a voiceless fricative, which has an IPA symbol that looks like the Greek letter. On the other hand, the th in den is voice, and this has an IPS symbol that looks like an old-fashioned D cross with a stroke through it. Compare the two and notice the difference in voicing. The voiceless dental fricative occurs typically at the beginning of nouns, verbs, and adjectives. The third pair of fricatives, s and s, have the constriction between the blade of the tongue and the ridge behind the upper teeth or alveolar. S is voiceless. Notice that the letter S often represents S, and the letter S often S. An aggregate consonant is a close-knit sequence of plosive and fricative produced by a single organ of speech. In English, there are just 2. One is commonly spelled ch and occurs, for instance, at the beginning of the word chip. Chips, its IPS symbol, is a combination of t and sh, representing the sequence of plosive and fricative made by the body of the tongue in the post-alveolar area. Ch. The symbol also indicates its voicelessness. The other affricate occurs at the beginning of the word jump and is commonly spelled with g before e and e, u and j. Jump. Its IPS symbol is a voice equivalent to the ch, a combination of da for the plosive element and for the fricative element. Chip is transcribed as chip. Approximants. There now remain just 4 approximants. An approximant is a consonant in which the constriction made by an organ of speech is not great enough to produce any friction at all. Lot, rot, yat, and wat. The first is known as a lateral approximant. since the sides of the tongue are lowered while the blade presses against the upper teeth ridge. This allows air to flow either sides of the constriction without friction. It is typically spelled L or L in English. Its IPS symbol is L. Lot is transcribed as lot. Linguists usually distinguish between two main varieties of L in English: the clear L that occurs before vowels and y, and the dark L with the back of the tongue raised that occurs before consonants except y or at the end of words. Since the two varieties never contrast meaning in English, together they constitute a single phoneme, and so only a single symbol is required. Rod. The blade, or for some people the front, of the tongue approach the back of the teeth ridge, alveolar. Its IPS symbol is an upturn R, but for convenience, the ordinary letter R is used, except when English is being compared to another language. An R before a consonant or at the end of a word has been lost in pronunciation in the standard accents of England since the 18th century. These non-rhotic accents are now found also in Wales, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. The rhotic accents of the West Country of England, Scotland, Ireland, and North America retain a final R in pronunciation, as we have already noted from time to time. Rod is transcribed as rod. What? It is formed in a way similar to the vowel U. The back of the tongue is raised towards the back of the roof of the mouth. The soft palate, while at the same time the lips are rounded and narrowed, labial and velar. The IPS symbol is the letter W. What, as you know already, is transcribed as what. The variation with words has already been practiced, and we have also already noticed that the letter W is silent in the words who, whole, etc. And in right, rec, red, too, it is also silent in the following words. There now remain just 4 approximants. An approximant is a consonant in which the constriction made by an organ of speech is not great enough to produce any friction at all. However, there are still 2 features of English pronunciation involving consonants that need explanation and practice: the occurrence of syllabic consonant and the form of consonants in inflection. In certain circumstances in English, a consonant can constitute the center or peak of a syllable instead of a vowel. It is clear that whereas a word like sad has 1 syllable, a word like sadder has 2. There is clearly a vowel articulated in the second, albeit unstressed, syllable after the consonant. Inflections are endings that change the form of a word for a grammatical category without changing its grammatical class. Thus, sadder and saddest contain inflection for the grammatical categories of comparative and superlative, but the words remain adjectives. Whereas the word sadness contains a derivational form that changes the word to the class noun. The regular comparative inflection is pronounced a or in rhotic accents. That's all from our group. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.